Welcome to the Best You 2022 Virtual Women's Summit. We are so excited to have you here. My name is Marnie Swedberg. This summit is in celebration of 20 years of God's faithfulness as I've had my Missions Ministry Mentorship Program. And I just encourage you to check all that out at marnie.com and join us for the whole rest of the summit. Even if you can't join us live, join us after, because it's all going to keep being available to you, not just today. This right now is 3 days of God-centric fun training with 60 speakers in 5 tracks, $1,500 of swag available to you this minute, and $18,000 worth of prizes available to those who are participating in the chat rooms in the live summit sessions. BestU2022.com is 100% free for you to attend and participate in. Also, it's live on YouTube, the entire summit. You don't have to download anything. You can share this with anybody around the whole world. You can watch it live or you can watch it later. And right now, I encourage you to take a moment and invite a friend. Because it is online, free, and on YouTube, there is nobody who can't participate in this. If God puts a woman in your heart right now or later, invite her. I encourage you to download the whole schedule so that you know what's coming up, but also using these same links that are on the schedule for the live watches where you can win the prizes. You can also use those same links to watch it later. You can even host a watch party with your friends. It's easy, user-friendly, and 100% free at bestu2022.com. There are 5 training tracks available to you. The spiritual growth track includes all of these sessions with all of these amazing speakers. The self-care track has awesome content with awesome speakers. The bold living track is for those who are being called to a bigger vision, or maybe are paralyzed or stuck or playing small or afraid to step out. The leadership training track is for parents and leaders of any kind at any level who just want to lead like Jesus led. All kinds of great content and great speakers for you here. And then the Expand Your Reach track. This is for those of you who have a vision and you want to get the message out to more people. Supersize your reach. There's so much wisdom and training right here during this session and in all 5 sessions. Remember, it is available to you live on YouTube or to replay afterward, because you cannot attend all the sessions at one time. So feel free to just pick which ones you want to be in, pick which prize you want to win, whatever you want to do, and participate in the live chats and then watch the rest later. We are so excited to welcome you to BestU2022.com. Now it's time for Supernatural Living. This is the second summit keynote, and I am Marnie Swedberg. I am the summit host as well as your presenter for this session. In this hour, we're going to be talking about supersizing your life to be a God-sized life, one that's really too big for you to do. Right now, it's time for me to share some miracle stories from my own life and ministry, plus the fastest path toward experiencing God's presence and power throughout each day. We're going to talk about how to tap into a God plus you lifestyle of supernatural living, the 5 levels of personal power, and the joy factor, and how to access it anytime. Don't forget to ask for your free mentorship assessment. That's available to all of you. And also stay tuned to the very end, because we'll be giving away 2 lifetime memberships to the mentorship program at marnie.com. I'm so excited to find out. I want you to win. I want all of you to win, but only 2 of you can win. But stay tuned, stay active in the chat room, and I hope and pray that you will be the winner. And I will see you at the end for that. Right now, I'm excited to share this program with you and welcome you to Best You 2022. Hey, you guys, it's great to have you here. Welcome to Best You 2022 and to this keynote session, Supersizing Your Life and how to have a supernatural life with Christ. I'm so excited that during this session, I'm going to get to share some miracle stories from my life. And I had a really hard time narrowing it down to what to share, but I am excited to share these with you and excited that you are here, and welcome to you. So you want to be sure to, if you have questions, I've got a question and answer time at the end. So put those questions in the chat box right now. Also, if you have something that you wanted to repeat or bring up as I'm going along, just put it in the chat room. Get active in the chat room right away. We're going to select our winner from the chat room. We have 2 winners at the end, so you want to be active in there. Right now, we get to get going on the session, and I'm going to do it this way here. So I am excited to talk to you about about this tonight. And what we're going to cover is how to tap into a God and you sized lifestyle. And then also the 5 levels of personal power. And most people never get past level 4, and the joy factor and how to access it anytime. Plus some miracle stories. I'm super excited about that as well. This morning, we talked about being a flow through vessel. And the first R was recognize that you have a problem and that God does want to, and he is able to help you. Now, the second R is release it. Give it completely to him. Cast all your cares on him. Pause, the third R, to receive his reciprocal gift, which is going to be usually a fruit of the Spirit. You'll all of a sudden have peace, or you'll have joy, or you'll have patience, or something like that. And then the last R is to respond then with gratitude. Thank you so much. I used to have a problem and now I feel better, and you've got it. So I love that God takes care of us in every way. And there's a difference between us living our lives like for God, and we're supposed to. I'm not saying we aren't supposed to live our lives for God, but sometimes when we live our lives for God, what we have is we have this God stuff category and we have the our stuff category. And like the God stuff category is like world peace and the U.S. economy and cancer, things like that. And then the our stuff, the my stuff, is everything else, like how to pay the bills and what to have for supper and how to raise the kids and all that kind of stuff. And what God is really looking for from us is relationship. He is really longing for us to do everything with him. So as we go forward, that's kind of the difference between a normal size life and a God-sized life, is doing it all with God, all through God, and God through us. I am going to share first my first miracle story with you right now. It's called All Around and Upside Down. Just prior to COVID, in fact, just 3 months before COVID, God had me go on an all around the world trip. And I have had the pleasure of doing ministry in many countries. And on this particular trip, I spoke 26 times in 4 countries at 6 conferences and plus some other speaking events along the way. And it was really an amazing time. God showed up so big everywhere. We had a lot. I actually circumnavigated the whole globe, and I did it. I went by myself. So it was quite an amazing trip. We had so much spiritual interference in Kenya and Uganda. And Kenya was those of you who prayed me through that, thank you so much. But there was so much spiritual interference. We just had problem after problem, and God was showing up, but it was really, really tough. Then when we got to Rwanda, all of a sudden there came a peace. And it's like, how did that ever happen? Like, how did I ever get peace in Rwanda? I was thinking of it in the morning. I was there sitting on a porch, and I was sending a video back, and I was like, I don't understand how I could have peace in Rwanda, but that's where God gave me peace. But that morning, the first day we were doing a women's business summit. And so Taran Dean from Australia and I were together there in Rwanda. And we had talked about what we were going to do. But in the morning, as I was praying, God changed the whole direction. And so I talked to Taran at breakfast, and I said, okay, we're going to change gears here. And I told her I was going to start with the cross of Christ and talk about everything that God had done for us by sending Jesus Christ to die for us, and how he came to reconcile us to God. Well, what I didn't know was that we were in Rwanda at the time of the 25th anniversary of genocide. God is this upside down world. We get to Rwanda and feel peace, get to Rwanda and find out we're there at the 25th anniversary of genocide, where over 1 million were killed, and mostly Tutus were killed by the Hutus. And when we were there, then I started this first session in the morning at the business conference on the reconciliation that God brought us through Christ dying on the cross. I was just starting my session, and in walked a delegation of government officials. And so, this is always kind of a question, what's going on? And so as they came in, we paused the whole program, of course, and they came all the way to the front, and then they spoke to the pastor, and then they took the stage and they told what they had come to tell. And then they took seats on the platform beside me. And then they said, okay, now you can keep going. So, I'm giving this presentation about the cross of Christ in Rwanda on the 25th anniversary of genocide to all the ladies who were there who wanted to start or grow their businesses, and to now a delegation of government officials. And as I went through this whole thing, it was so fun to watch their faces and to see what God was doing. And afterwards, to have them come up to me and just say, this is the exact message that we need here in Rwanda, the reconciliation message of the cross of Christ. And it was not what I was going to share. And I love how God does that. You know, you have your own idea, you have your own plan, and then God knows what's coming. I mean, we don't know what's coming. God knows what's coming. He knew that delegation was coming. And even though that felt upside down to me to do a business women's summit launch on the cross of Christ, it was exactly what was needed for the other attendees who were there, as well as for the gals who were in the audience. The next thing I want to do with you is I want to share the 5 levels of personal power and why most people never get past level 4. So there are 5 levels of power, and I'm going to go through them really quickly. I could take literally 2 to 3 hours and go through this with you, with your group. So if you want to dig deeper, invite me sometime to come or do a webinar with you. But right now, I'm just going to touch on it briefly so you get the idea of how God has set the world up. First of all, there's personal power, then creative power, productive power, universal power, and eternal power. So everybody that's alive has personal power. So my little teeny grandbaby, he has personal power. He doesn't know he does, but he does. If he starts screaming, we start taking action. It's just like he doesn't even know what he's doing, or that he's causing trouble, or that he's causing us to change our behavior, but he is, just by his existence, he has power. Then the second level is creative power. And I'm actually going to give you the whole screen here so you can see this. The creative power is when I exist, and then I also have an idea. Like, this is where the creativity starts kicking in now, and I start having ideas. So that's the level 2. Level 3 is when I take those ideas and I put them with action. So that is productive power, where I'm not only just thinking now, I'm not only just existing now I'm actually moving, I'm actually changing things. The world is changing because I have taken action. Things around me are changing, and that has the ripple effect. The 4th level is universal power. Now, this is where I put my ideas together with action, and then I apply passion. And I love this one because when you think about passion, the thing about passion is that it's energy. So I do a whole program called Body Electric. So you are an energy being. So if I took a brick and I put it up against a live wire, nothing would happen. But if I took you and put you up against a live wire, something bad would happen, because the electricity in the wire and the energy that you bring to it are too much when put together like that. So when we say universal power, what we do there is we have an idea, we start taking action, but then we get excited. And when we get excited, that changes everything. So you think about a little corn kernel. You think about that dead little corn kernel, right? And when you put it in the ground, it starts vibrating like a corn, like a corn. And it starts growing, and it grows up to be a corn cob. It grows up to be a corn stalk that has corn cobs on it. It's not going to grow up to be a pumpkin. It's not going to grow up to be anything else. It's not going to be a cat. It's going to grow up to be corn because it's a corn kernel. What did it need? It needed to be put into the ground. And when it was put into the soil and it was moist and it had the opportunity, it started vibrating. And that vibration, that passion, that energy is what turned it into a corn stalk that could produce corn cobs. You are built like that. All of us are built like that. When we have an idea and we take action on it, and then we get excited about it, that changes everything. And just like that little corn kernel lays in the ground, and the things that it needs to grow, like even the worms that go around it, everything that it needs comes to the corn. The corn kernel doesn't go out running around like a chicken with its head cut off trying to find everything it needs. It just lays there in the ground and vibrates its little happy self, and everything it needs comes to it. So we have the ability, when we have an idea and we take action, And we add passion, which is how God created a person to do it. He doesn't create us to just lay in our beds and wait for everything to come. We're people, we're not corn. And so you have to take action too. But the reality is that when you add the passion to it, when you get excited about what God is calling you to do, then everything changes. And then everything that you need starts coming to you, as well as you going out and going by it. I mean, it's so incredible how God has set this up. The fifth level then is the one that most people don't ever get to, because it's the eternal power. This is God plus me, plus ideas, plus action, plus passion. But what do you notice about this one? What is the first part of this equation? The first part is God, right? So all the other four parts of the equation, I can do actually without God. We can't even breathe without him, but you can do it without knowing that he exists, without knowing that he died for you, without committing your life to him. You can do the first four, but you can only do number five if God is doing it through you. So the eternal power, we talked about this morning. If you missed that session about amazing opportunities, go back and catch that. We talked about this, about how in 1 Corinthians 13, it says that, if I sell all my goods and if I feed the poor with all that money and I don't have any left, but the poor got something to eat, it's worth nothing. So it's worth something in scales 1 through 4. Totally worth something. That scripture, and so much of scripture, is talking about level 5. It's not worth anything eternally unless God's love is in it, unless agape love is in it. So there's 4 kinds of love. There's eros, there's storge, there's phileo, and there's agape. And you can do levels 1 through 4 with the 3 kinds of love that you can produce yourself. But the agape love that comes from God, you can't do that yourself. You can't produce it. You can do an imitation, but the thing is, you'll run out. That has to be refilled with people giving you stuff back. Whereas God's love, he already gave everything for you and to you. So you can do that with him. So those are the 5 levels of personal power. And it is like we talked about this morning about breathing the air of prayer. We have this amazing opportunity as earth dwellers, but air breathers. Like the dolphin is a water dweller, but an air breather. We're an earth dweller, but a prayer breather. We have this amazing opportunity to tap into God's resources in order to live a supernatural life. I want to share with you another story. It's called Inconvenience Callings. This is another miracle story. I wrote my first book in 1996, and along the way, an editor, a reporter from a bigger city nearby came to my home and did an interview with me. And at this time, my kids were little, and she was single, and she fell in love with my family. Of course, they were adorable little kids, and she loved everything about our home. And she felt so comfortable there and loved there. Well, later, she ended up moving to my city, and she was pregnant. And I didn't really get to see her. Like, I'd seen her maybe twice, but a friend of mine was good friends with her. And so I knew about her. I knew she was pregnant. And I knew that my friend was reaching out to her to share Christ with her because she didn't know Jesus. And so one Sunday morning, I was sitting in my prayer chair, and I had my Bible, and I was just getting going on the Sunday morning early. And I had this crazy thought to call Jenny. The reporter's name was Jenny. And I thought, call Jenny. I can't, it's Sunday morning at 7:00. I think she just had a baby. I can't call Jenny. And so I went back and I kept reading and I kept praying. And pretty soon the thought came again, call Jenny. And this time I am up out of my prayer chair. I am walking. I am like, I can't possibly call her. What would I say? Hi, I was thinking, want to go to church? What would I say Sunday morning at 7:00 for a new mom? And so I went and I sat down, and it was call Jenny now. And that time I knew that it was God. A lot of times it's God because he's asking you to do something you would never otherwise do. And I would have never called a new mom on Sunday morning, especially one I hardly knew. And so I thought, if this is you, you got to prove it to me. And I grabbed my Bible and I did that thing that people tell you not to do. I do it all the time because I just trust God that he knows his Bible. And if my heart is really to hear from him, he can talk to me. So I just opened my Bible and I said, okay, If you want me to call Jenny, show me. And my finger went down on a verse. It was in the Old Testament somewhere. I don't know where it was, but it was a verse about rescuing the perishing. And I thought, well, from what I know of Jenny's life, that would describe her. So I went over and I thought, I probably can't even find her phone number. I don't even know. But I was able to, in the phone book, find her phone number. So I called her and it was like, oh, so it's ringing and I'm hoping nobody's home and they've got the phone turned off or something. But no, after several rings, she answers and it's this really, really, really groggy voice. And she says, hello. And I said, hi, Jenny, this is Marnie Swedberg. Do you remember me? And she goes, Marnie, why are you calling me? And I said, I'm so sorry. Did I wake you up? She goes, no, I've been awake all night. And then she started crying and she said, Jim's out of town and I had burglars here last night. They were around my house and they kept shining their lights into my window. Fortunately, I have a big dog and he was just barking and barking. I think he finally scared him away. I called the police. Finally, they came because we live out in the country. And finally, they came. And then I couldn't go back to sleep. And she says, and now the baby's going to wake up and I don't know what I'm going to do. And I said, well, my baby's 8 years old and I would love to take care of your baby while you took a nap this morning. I don't know, would you trust me to do that? And she goes, sure, I know you, sure. And so she gave me directions. I drove out to her home. I got her little newborn baby and I took her with me to church. And if you can imagine me after 8 years of no babies and not being pregnant, walking in with a newborn baby, it created quite a buzz at the church. And we had a lot of fun. And whenever somebody would say, hey, where'd you get the baby? I'd say, pray for Jenny. God's doing something. Pray for Jenny. So as Jenny slept, we had church. And as we were going along, I used up the milk that Jenny had sent. And then little Mia was thirsty again. And I was like, oh, wow, I don't know what to do. And I was in the nursery. And a friend of mine came in and she said, I just finished nursing my son on one side and he didn't want the other. What do you think? And I said, wow, I don't know. Yeah, let's go for it. So she went nursed Jenny's baby on the other side, and that tided her over for a little longer. Well, pretty soon the afternoon is coming, and I could tell that Mia needed mommy, and I figured mommy probably needed Mia too. So I called Jenny and I said, Mia needs you. Can I bring her out? And she's like, sure, yeah, bring her out. I'm ready. So I'll take a shower and then it'll work out good. So I get there and she's showered and we're sitting in the living room and she's feeding Mia. And I just sat there and I listened to Jenny's story, which was really a heartbreaking story, full of really a lot of trauma. One of the things, not the worst thing, was one of her boyfriends had thrown her through a plate glass window. I mean, she just had a lot of really rough things happen in her life. And as she took a pause, I said, Jenny, do you ever pray? And she said, I pray all the time. And I said, do you think God hears you? And she said, I don't know. I kind of don't think so. And I said, can I show you that there is a way that you could know for sure that God would always hear you? And she said, sure. So I took out just a napkin on the table and I just did this little thing. And I said, this is the deal here is that God's over here on this one side and he's perfect. And then we're over here and we're not perfect. We are so far from perfect. And the Bible says that all of us have sinned and fallen short of God's perfection. And that's like that middle part in there. It's like the chasm. And at the time we lived on Lake of the Woods. And I said, it's like the distance between here and the other side of the lake, which was 60 miles. You could throw a stone, but you could never throw it that far. We have fallen short of God's glory. And I just explained how Jesus had come to bridge that gap and to get us across so that we could know for sure that we were accepted by God, not because of anything that we had done, but because we believed and trusted in what God had done for us through Jesus and what he did on the cross. I finished that and I said, Jenny, is there any reason you wouldn't want to cross that bridge right now? And she said, I can't think of any reason. Let's do it. So we prayed right there. And, at the time, her husband was an alcoholic for quite a few years. And it was just really a troublesome marriage. And she was in trouble emotionally herself, but she went on and God really had turned Jenny's life around. This is Jenny now. And I have permission to tell Jenny's story. In fact, what I remember years ago when I asked her for permission to tell it, I said, would you give me permission to tell your story at public events? And she goes, of course. She says, it's your story too. I thought, well, I guess that's true in a way. But I love how God works, and I love how God takes us from where we are to where we need to be. I love praying with women around the world. And one of the things is that later, after Jenny became a Christian, she introduced me to transformational prayer ministry. And I've used that with gals all around the world. And my prayer is always that God would choose me, fill me, and use me. And that's my prayer for you as well. All right. The next section here is the joy factor and how to access it anytime. And for this one, I want to introduce you to Little Johnny. So Little Johnny is a fictitious character. However, he depicts us. And one morning, Little Johnny was woken up by his father, and his daddy said, "Do you want to come help me build the shed today?" And Little Johnny got really excited, and he's like, "Build a shed with Dad? Yes." So he strapped on his little toy toolbox belt, and he went out with Daddy to build the shed. So they're out there building the shed all day. And of course, little Johnny is way more work than he's worth, right? He's knocking over the can of nails, and he's asking a lot of questions. And are we done yet? And are we done yet? And are we done yet? But eventually they get the project done. And at that moment, Daddy takes little Johnny back, and they stand together and they look together at this finished shed. And Daddy looks down at Johnny and he says, "Thanks for all your help. I couldn't have done it without you." And little Johnny looks up at him and seriously says, "I know." And that's exactly how we are with God. We are so much more trouble than we are worth. We're messing his stuff up all the time. We are just getting in the way, making it harder for him to be God, if that's possible. And yet we think that he loves us because we're so helpful. We, like little Johnny, think that it's because we did it that it got done. No, it's because God partnered with us that we were able to experience this. This is an upside down world. It's an upside down world when we do it with God, and it is beautiful. We hold his hand, but the reality is that he's holding us. It's not us holding him. We have the opportunity to go into the presence of God anytime. Back to the dolphins. Remember, the dolphins live under the water, but breathe air. We live on the earth, but we breathe prayer. Prayer means going into the presence of God with my conscious mind. Now, most of what's happening for us is underneath the surface. So it's like an iceberg. And we have this little bit that we're aware of. In fact, it's 40 stimuli per second that is above that water line. 40 stimuli per second. Under the waterline, 20 million stimuli per second. There's no comparison. It's like that big guy there. I'm going to put this full screen here. It's like that big guy compared to that little teeny guy. I mean, who's going to win in this fight? We know who's going to win. The subconscious is going to win. Even though you can't see it and it's under the ground, the subconscious is going to win every time because he's such a big guy compared to our conscious mind. And so we have to be aware of this, that we have a choice to either go into the conscious presence of God or not, to consciously go into the presence of God or not. And when the Bible says to pray without ceasing, that's what the dolphins do. They breathe without ceasing. They don't breathe all the time, but they breathe. They have to breathe like every 5 minutes or they run out of air. And that's what we're supposed to do as well, is we're supposed to pray without ceasing. Every time we feel our peace getting shaken, we are supposed to go to prayer. And our peace can get shaken with worry, exhaustion, anger, whatever it is that's coming at you. It's like a lion. And all of a sudden is overtaking your peace. And when that happens, that's when we go up for air through prayer. And we actually access the kingdom of God through prayer. It says in Ephesians 2:6, we are seated in the heavenlies with Christ, present tense. That means I can consciously be aware of being in God's presence anytime I choose to do so. It's such a beautiful gift. Instead of living like we're so scared and we're so small and we're so hopeless, it's not like that. God instead wants us to be like an innocent child. We are now seated in the heavenlies with Christ, and we can access that kind of power, that kind of supernatural life anytime by just trusting that it's true as we go up through the air of prayer. All right. The last thing I wanted to show you was Philippians 1:21 says, the joy of the Lord is your strength. Okay. So when you think about that right now in the chat room, I would like you to write, if you don't have strength, what don't you have? So right now, type that in the chat room. If you don't have strength, what don't you have? Basically, if you have no joy, if you have no joy, you'll have no strength. If you have no strength, it's because you have no joy. And that there's nothing else to think about except that that's the reality of it. You've got to have the joy of the Lord to have strength. So going up for air through prayer, the 4 R's where we keep releasing the things that are starting to make us feel like we are losing our peace, allow us to experience joy. The last story I have for you tonight, the last miracle story, is called Undeserved Favor. I am married to a gardener. He is so much fun and he loves his garden, but I am not a gardener. And this has caused some trouble in our marriage because he wants me to garden and I don't want to garden. And so through the years, he's done stuff like rototill the garden and plant it all and everything. And I've helped with the putting the produce up. And one year he came in. Have you ever watched somebody rototill a garden? They just nearly shake to death. One year he came in the house. It was in the spring. It was cold in northern Minnesota. He comes in the house and he goes, Marnie, I think I rototilled my wedding ring into the garden. I'm like, you're kidding me. So he gets this metal detector and he goes and he spends just so much time out there and he finds lots of stuff, but no ring. So anyway, it's just all part of the gardening, right? Well, this one morning on his way to work, and I was homeschooling the kids at the time, on his way out the door to go to work, he says to me, if you have time today, could you pick the beans? And being a wonderful wife that I was, I said, yeah, sure. Okay, good. Have a great day. Love you. Bye. And so he leaves to go to work and I shut the door behind him and I'm like, pick the beans. Pick the stupid beans yourself. I hate picking beans. I don't even like beans and I don't like picking them. You could go to the grocery store and get a bag of beans for, at the time, like 59 cents or something. It's like ridiculous. What are we doing picking beans? But in the afternoon, there came this perfect opportunity and I knew that it was time to go pick the beans. So I grabbed my bucket and my little bad attitude and I walked right out there and I started picking beans. And I was picking the beans and I was picking the beans and I was having a bad attitude. I did not like it that I was picking beans. I was thinking very bad thoughts. I don't like beans. I don't like picking beans. I don't like Dave. I was just having a bad attitude. And all of a sudden, God spoke to me. Now, the sky did not part. I did not hear angels or a booming voice. All I heard a thought in my head that wasn't there before and that I can't imagine I would have thought myself. It was this, Marnie, is there nothing for which you can be thankful? And because I knew that was God and not me saying that, I was like, yes, there must be something. So I'm thinking, okay, what could it be? What could it be? Yes, it's a beautiful day. And it was. And I looked up for the first time and it was just a gorgeous summer day. And then I'm like, okay, and the mosquitoes haven't found me. And that's like just a miracle right there. So thank you that the mosquitoes haven't found me yet. And let's see what else. My friend is flat on her back and I'm here with no pain picking beans. So thank you for that. And even God, thank you for Dave. I don't like his garden, but I do love him. So thank you for him. Thank you for providing for us. And it just kind of changed. You know what it is? Something happens and it just changes you. And God just did that for me in that moment. He just spoke to me and everything changed. And now I'm having a good time picking the beans, right? And God did that for me because he knew what was coming down the road. I didn't know what was coming down the road at me, but God knew what was coming down the road. And as I continued to go down the row, at a certain point when I reached to pick a bean, on that bean was hanging my husband's little wedding ring. It had grown up in the ground and was hanging on the bean. And I was able to pick the bean and pick the wedding ring. And this was just a couple days after I had prayed, God, I don't have anything to give Dave for our 10th wedding anniversary. Could you help me give him a perfect gift? God does miracles in just bizarre ways. Like, how do you know? How do you know what he's going to do? All I know is that we can trust him and that we can love him, that we can serve him. At this point, I'm going to take a few questions and then we are going to have our prize giveaway after that. So We're going to give away a mentorship membership, so don't go anywhere. Right now, I'm going to take that down off the screen. And Tim, do we have any questions? How do I get past performance and into dependence with God? Oh, that's such a great question. So, when you're raising your kids, right? So when you're raising your kids, they come into the earth knowing how to do nothing, and you have to get them all the way to independent where they can do everything themselves, right? That's kind of the job of the parent, is to take them from totally dependent to totally independent. So with God, it's exactly the other way around. We come into our relationship with God, and we have been 2-year-olds. So we know how to say no, and we know how to say, me, do it my way. And we are all about ourselves, and everything's about me and me doing it my way. And so God's project, when he gets us, when we accept him as our savior, his project is to teach us to be dependent on him, kind of in the same way that a baby is dependent on their parent, like to that level where you wouldn't even think of doing something without him, where it's just your natural breath to ask him, to trust him, to release things to him, to receive from him peace or joy or whatever it is. So how to grow into a dependent relationship versus a performance relationship is to remember little Johnny, actually, and to remember that he doesn't actually need you. He doesn't need your performance at all, like zero. And in fact, even just earlier this week, I did something and I felt like it really failed really badly. And I was feeling so lousy about it. And I'm like, God, that was so ugly. That did not work out at all. And I was just trying to do the right thing, but that did not work out at all. And in moments like that, I have this illustration I use because several years ago, I had a series of things that went like that. And I came to a point where I was kind of depressed. I was down, and I couldn't figure out how to go on because I was just trusting God and I was trying to do things for him, but I just couldn't figure out how. And I remember for a whole year, I wouldn't get out of bed unless I said this: the only reason I'm getting out of bed today is because I know you, God, you're going to take my missteps, my mistakes, and my misspoken words, and you're going to turn them into beautiful flower gardens. And because of you, I will get out of bed today. So basically what I was saying in that little thing is that I'm going to just do my best today, but I'm going to be bringing you manure all day long. And so as I went through this week, even earlier, and I was thinking performance, I didn't perform the way I wanted to. And I just remembered, no, God loves my manure. And in fact, I always say God is the only one who can handle my junk, but he loves our junk. He loves our manure. He loves a heart that's just willing to try and willing to fail and be vulnerable and fail for him. And failure is just feedback, and his well done, my good and faithful servant, is what we're going for, not the numbers or the actual results. Callie Master, when did you know that your life calling was helping other women? It's so funny because I've always said, that's a great question. I've always said that it was when I started teaching 4-year-olds in children's church when I was 11 years old. I think was the first time that I realized that I was supposed to help younger women. And I was 11. But actually, when I was getting ready for the summit party, I realized that 30 years ago, so 20 years ago, I started my mentoring ministry at Marnie.com. But 30 years ago, I started a program in my home called Amael. And that was a program for 11 to 18-year-old girls. And they would come after school Monday, Tuesdays, and Thursdays. And we would make meals for families in need. And we would learn how to serve. And so they got points between sessions. They got points if they served anybody, like served their mom or served somebody or picked up a piece of trash or whatever. They got points for serving. And the point was to get your focus off of yourself so much and start seeing how God might use you. And so I think actually it was probably in 92 when I started Amael that I started mentoring women. And I don't think I realized it until 10 years later that that's really what I was doing. So thanks. Great question, Kelly. Thank you. Okay. So what primarily stops us from getting to the 5th level, eternal power, even when we want God to be in control, right? So in 1 Corinthians 13, if you study those first 8 verses there, verse 4 starts with love never fails. And what it's saying actually is that God's agape love never fails. So can my love never fail? My love is going to fail. My love is going to fail. I'm going to run out of love, right? I'm going to run out of grace and patience and all the things that are listed there in the love chapter. But God's love actually never fails. So I can tell the difference between when I'm doing it and when God's doing it when I start crashing. And this morning I talked about the straw illustration, and we think we're supposed to be what's filling up. We're supposed to fill this up, but it's not true. We're supposed to be into God, into him. He fills it up. And when others need something from us, or when we need something, we're just sucking on the straw, or other people are sucking on our lives and they're getting God. And so the difference is between the source. So have you ever plugged your phone in at night, but the power strip was turned off? So you did the right thing. You trusted the power strip, but it was turned off. And that's kind of like what happens in our lives, is that independent streak that we have to do it my way, and to just go for it and to perform for God instead of be dependent on him. It's like the power strip got turned off. It's like, I want to do it that way, but I'm not, because I'm not choosing to do it that way. So God is calling us to actually choose to be humble, to choose to be dependent. And it says in the Bible, the foolish man in his pride does not look to God. And that's what happens with me a lot, is that I'm just going about my business. And we have the book Flow Through Vessel talks a lot about habit, and about how these habits are so deeply ingrained, and you've got that 20 million stimuli pushing you to do things like you've always done. So I think what happens is that a lot of times it's just habit to not do it with God, actually, to just do it. And I remember one day asking him, I stood in front of my closet and I said, so like, am I supposed to ask you what to wear? I don't understand this. How do I actually do this in real life? And what he prompted in my heart was, he said, you don't have to ask me what to wear unless you're feeling anxious about what to wear. And then you need me. And it's back to the air of prayer. So when does the dolphin know to go up for air? When it's running out of oxygen, right? When do we know to go up for prayer? When we're running out of peace. So anytime my peace is shaken, that's when I know I need to tap into God. And so I hope that helps. It's there for all of us, but it isn't always easy to access it because we aren't in the habit of doing so. And that's what Flow Through Vessel is about, is mastering the habit of letting God flow through you. All right, Tim, is there like one or two more questions? What was the verse about already being in heaven? That is in Ephesians 2, verse 6. We are seated in the heavenlies with Christ. And that is I remember the first time I heard that verse was in the present tense. And I was like, wow, that's incredible. I'm already seated in the heavenlies. I really thought I had to die, leave planet Earth before I would go sit with God in heaven. But it's not true. I sit with him in heaven all the time. Now, anytime that I choose to, I choose to consciously be in the presence of God. I have the privilege of being aware of where I really am and really with him. All right. Any other questions? Maybe one more. That was a quick one. I feel like that little guy in the fight all the time. Am I supposed to feel small? Oh, okay. So, right. Back to that one. You've got your conscious mind, which you're kind of aware of, that is processing 40 stimuli per second. And then you've got the subconscious mind, which is working in the background and keeping your eyes blinking 10,000 times and keeping your heart pumping, and all that stuff is going on in the background, 20 million stimuli per second. So what happens is that we are actually supposed to feel like the little guy. We are. And as we feel like the little guy, that's when we go to Daddy for help. Right? And so it's really so beautiful. It's like he wants us to feel the need for him. And what happens is that when we feel the need for him, we beat ourselves up, or we let other people beat us up because we're not great enough, or we're not good enough, or we're not enough, or whatever it is. But the reality is that God already knows that we're not enough. And that's why he sent Jesus to die, so that we could live in him and him in us, so that when we feel small and when we feel helpless, we can run to him and experience his supernatural life flowing through our lives. Yay. All right. At this time, we're going to have a little video, and then I'm going to come back and we'll find out who won the lifetime memberships. You are participating in the Best You 2022 Virtual Women's Summit. Welcome. Everything here is free for you to enjoy, and it's all live on YouTube, January 13 through 15, but it's also free to replay later at any time. So just enjoy it live and maybe win prizes, watch later by yourself, or host a watch party with your friends. Download the full schedule so that you don't miss anything. At this time, don't forget that all of you are welcome to request the free swag gifts. Not just mine, but all of the speakers have a free swag offer for you at bestyou2022.com. Mine is the mentorship assessment, where you can discover your ideal mentoring style and turbocharge your progress. That is available free to all of you. And right now we get to announce who the two winners are of the lifetime mentorship membership at Marnie.com. So any of you can join us per month or per year or for life by paying, but right now we get to give two of these away to people who are present here in the chat room. So again, we're so excited to have you here with us. Welcome to bestyou2022.com, and be sure to invite your friends. All right, yay, I'm excited because it's time to give away some prizes here. So we are giving away the lifetime membership, two of these actually. And what that includes is it includes the 21-day group coaching that happens every month, where you can exchange out a bad habit for a good one or finish a project. This is a very grace-based accountability group. We don't beat each other up, but we are really seeing good progress in there. And then all of the new trainings and boot camps and Q&A sessions, laser intensive and online working lunches that I do each month and each year are all included going forward, plus instant access to all of the archived stuff that's there. Also, all of my books are in there, and this is for lifetime access. So we talked about being innocent and dependent like a baby, and we talked about little Johnny. So the winner of the first prize is going to be the person who types into the chat room first that Tim sees it, Little Johnny. So type Little Johnny into the chat room, and the first person that we see who has that in there is going to be the winner of a lifetime membership at Marnie.com, and he will put that on the screen here as soon as we get that. There's always a little delay, and sometimes the chat out front shows different than the chat back here. We're going with the one in the admin panel, and he's just going to pick the very first person who types in Little Johnny, and the winner is Jean Haley. Nice, good, okay. Jean, if you would go to Marnie.com, and at the bottom on the contact form there, if you would send us your email, we will get you the login access information and the information about that. And congratulations to you, Jean. And then the second winner, I was telling a story about, hang on, I'm going to write down Jean's name just so I don't lose this. Jean Healy. Okay, and then the second winner, we were talking about being in the garden and 10-year anniversary and finding the ring on the bean plant. And so the next winner is not Jean, but anybody else. The first person we see that has written ring into the chat room. All right, so we're looking for the word ring, and the winner is coming pretty soon. Just waiting. I hope it's you. The winner is Barbara Benton. Yay! All right, Barbara, excellent. Congratulations to you, and thank you all for being here. This has been so fun to talk to you guys about supernatural living and to share some of my miracle stories with you. I've got so many more. You know, we have a couple minutes, so let me tell you one more. I asked my oldest sister the other day, I said, if I could only tell one story, which one would you say? And she told me, tell this story about Nicole. So I'm going to tell you a little story about Nicole. I was hosting a Bible study in my home and for ladies, and we had taken a little break over the summer. But before the break last year, one of the gals had accepted Christ. Her name was Nicole, and she was so precious, and I just love Nicole so much. Anyway, after she had accepted Christ, she'd hit some hard times, and she hadn't come back in the next session after that. So I was going to go around and invite all the ladies to come, and I had made them special personalized cookies. And it was mostly an excuse to go invite them to come to the new Bible study that was starting up in a couple weeks. So I had my list of addresses and where I was going to go. And I was driving to go to one house, and I was going to take the right to go where I was supposed to go next. And I had all this timed out because I kind of knew their schedules, work schedules and stuff like that. So I was going to take a right, and in my spirit, I heard, go straight, go to Nicole's. And I'm like, that doesn't make any sense. Nicole's not home right now. She gets done with work, then she has to go pick up her kids from the daycare. She wouldn't be home right now. So I get into the right turn lane, and I hear it again, go straight. And I'm like, that doesn't make any sense. Going straight makes no sense. And so then I heard again, Marnie, go to Nicole's. And so I just pulled out and I'm like, okay, whatever. I'm going to go, whatever. So, and I'm like that. It usually takes me about 3 times. Anyway, so I get out in the country. I get to Nicole's corner. I turn left. She has a really long driveway. I'm going down this really long driveway to get to her house at the end. And as I'm going down this driveway, I see a truck coming at me from the house side, and it's Nicole. And I'm like, wow. And so she pulls up, we pull up, my van is next to her. My van driver's side is next to her truck driver's side. And I said, wow, I caught you. I can't believe I caught you. She goes, what are you doing here? And I said, actually, I was coming, I have something for you. And I grabbed it and I gave her the gift. And I said, I wanted to invite you back to Bible study. He goes, yeah, but what are you really doing here? And I said, I don't understand. What do you mean? I can't, we just missed you. Sorry. We just missed you. I just wanted to invite you to come back to Bible study. She goes, no, Marnie, why are you really here? And then I was like, Nicole, I'm sorry. I don't know what you're talking about. I just came to give you an invitation to Bible study because we missed you and I want you to come back. And she goes, you don't remember? And I said, I don't know what you're talking about. She said, it was 1 year ago today that I accepted Christ as my Savior at your kitchen table. And I said, Nicole, I totally forgot that this was your birthday, but God did not forget. And he had me come out here with a cookie with your name on it to invite you to come back. And she started crying. She said, I have had a rough time. She said, this was really a rough time. She said, but I can tell you one thing. Since I accepted Christ, the sky is more blue and the trees are more green. And I do want to come back. And Nicole is still walking with Jesus. And I just encourage you, if God calls you to do something, even if it doesn't make any sense, just do it. Just do it. He's got your back. He loves you. All right. It's so great to have you here. Tim, are there any other questions that we should be answering right now? Otherwise, we're getting ready to wrap up. Okay, Jean, yes, I'm so excited too. Lifetime Membership. Can someone let me know how to register for that? Yep, just go to marnie.com, marnie.com. And at the bottom of any page, you can just use the contact form there. If you give us your email address, we will be happy to get you going. And that's same too. Oh, Tim, I hope you wrote down who the other winner was. I didn't write it down and I have already forgotten, but I love you. I can't wait to get to know you. All right. Any other questions in the chat room? Otherwise, I'm going to just encourage you guys to take full advantage of this weekend. Wow. These speakers have put so much work into this. Their swag gifts for you are fantastic. Don't miss that. And their giveaways are really, really cool. And so you want to be sure to get in on all of the sessions that you can live. So you can ask for the swag anytime, but the prizes you do have to be present to win. So try to attend as many sessions as you can. And you can download the whole program. It's at the speakers part. When you go down on that list of drop downs at bestu2022.com, go to the speakers one and you can download the whole program. You can sit with that and really pray over it and say, God, where do you want me to go live? Where do you want me to listen to later? And for sure, you guys invite your friends. There's so much room here. We have space. As many people as want to can come. So be sure to invite your friends. I hope you have a wonderful weekend. And I won't be back now on the main stage for another keynote. Well, actually, we're doing a praise session on Saturday afternoon at noon. You want to be there for the praise party, and I have a surprise for you then. But also, I will be back on the main stage with a couple of our sponsors in between. So until then, I will see you later. Have so much fun. Have a great evening. God bless. You are participating in the Best You 2022 Virtual Women's Summit. Welcome. Everything here is free for you to enjoy, and it's all live on YouTube, January 13 through 15, but it's also free to replay later at any time, so just enjoy it live and maybe win prizes, watch later by yourself, or host a watch party with your friends. Download the full schedule so that you don't miss anything. At this time, don't forget that all of you are welcome to request the free swag gifts. Not just mine, but all of the speakers have a free swag offer for you at bestu2022.com. Mine is the mentorship assessment, where you can discover your ideal mentoring style and turbocharge your progress. That is available free to all of you. And right now we get to announce who the two winners are of the lifetime mentorship membership at Marnie.com. So any of you can join us per month or per year or for life by paying, but right now we get to give two of these away to people who are present here in the chat room. So again, we're so excited to have you here with us. Welcome to bestu2022.com, and be sure to invite your friends. That was so my bad. I don't know if Tim, if you can get that branding down, I'm not sure. So I wasn't meaning to play that video again. It's just like me being me, making mistakes. So that's a little more manure to give to God, not on purpose. And I didn't mean to throw you off. But anyway, thank you for hanging with us, and I will see you around the summit. Have a good evening. Bye bye.